Jake was used to being alone. As a deep space explorer, most of his time was spent on uninhabited planets collecting data and completing missions that kept him far from the familiar sights of Earth. But when his ship had crash-landed on a remote planet, everything changed. He had no choice but to explore the unknown world and search for supplies. The planet was strange, lush forests with tall trees that seemed to whisper in the wind, and skies so clear that stars could be seen even in the middle of the day. Wandered, trying to find something useful for his ship. But he didn't expect to find her. Lyra, at first, he thought she was a mirage. Her presence was so sudden, so out of place, that Jake couldn't believe his eyes. She stood in the clearing before him, a stunning alien woman with an ethereal glow. Her long hair flowed like a silver waterfall, and her eyes shimmered with a color he couldn't even describe. She was everything he had ever imagined in a dream, beautiful, graceful, and powerful in a way that was beyond human comprehension. Jake took a step back, unsure of what to do. He wasn't used to this. Salian life forms were often distant and difficult to communicate with, but Lyra stood there watching him, her gaze both curious and welcoming. He cleared his throat. His voice felt small compared to the vastness of the forest. Lyra tilted her head slightly, a soft smile tugging at the corners of her lips. She didn't speak, but the air around her seemed to hum with an energy Jake couldn't place. The translator device on his wrist crackled to life, bridging the gap between their languages. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice smooth like a melody, but with an edge of something deeper. It was as though her words were carefully chosen, as though every syllable held meaning beyond simple conversation. Jake blinked, his heart racing for reasons he didn't fully understand. "Jake," he said a little breathlessly, I didn't expect to find anyone here." Lyra's eyes flickered with a knowing look. "This is my world," she said, "but it's not a place for humans. Why are you here?" "Crash-landed," Jake explained quickly. "I need supplies to get my ship working again." Lyra's gaze softened. "I will help you, Jake," she said, "but you must follow my rules." Her voice held a mysterious quality, and there was something about the way she spoke that made Jake feel like he had just stumbled into a world that was far older and more powerful than anything he knew. He nodded, trying to mask the uncertainty that bubbled up inside him. "I don't want to cause any trouble. I just need to fix my ship." Lyra stepped closer, and her presence seemed to fill the space around them. She was tall, much taller than any human woman Jake had ever met, and her aura was otherworldly. He could feel the warmth of her skin, even though they hadn't touched. There was a sense of energy radiating from her, like she had a connection to the very earth beneath them. Her voice lowered, soft, yet firm. "You will not cause trouble, Jake, but you will learn many things about this world and about me." Jake swallowed, trying to steady his breathing. This was more than he had signed up for. He had expected a planet full of silence, perhaps a few dangerous creatures, and maybe some technical problems to solve. But Lyra was far more than anything he had expected. As they moved through the forest, Lyra showed him her world. The landscape was beautiful, but there was something ancient about it, something hidden just beneath the surface. The trees whispered, the winds carried secrets, and the very ground seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Lyra wasn't just an inhabitant of this planet. She was part of it, as if she belonged to the very land itself. They found shelter in a small hidden cave that Lyra had used for centuries. She explained that this place had been passed down through generations of her kind. Jake listened, fascinated, though he couldn't help but feel like a stranger in a world that wasn't meant for him. Later that evening, as the two sat around a fire, Jake watched her. Lyra was not only beautiful, but composed. Every movement she made was elegant, almost predatory in its grace. She didn't seem to care that Jake was there. She was in complete control of her surroundings, and that was something Jake couldn't help but admire. After a long silence, Jake finally spoke. "You're different from anyone I've met. I've never encountered anyone like you before." Lyra's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. She didn't reply right away. Instead, she leaned in closer, her eyes locking with his. The heat from the fire flickered across her face, illuminating the smooth features of her alien beauty. Beautiful lips, Jake blurted out before he could stop himself. He immediately regretted the words. What had he just said? But Lyra's smile widened, and she met his gaze with a mischievous gleam in her eyes. Want a taste? She asked, her voice soft yet full of something he couldn't describe. For a moment, Jake's heart stopped. The world around him seemed to freeze. Reply sent a shockwave through him, leaving him speechless, unable to process what had just happened. He felt a mix of excitement and fear, his pulse racing. He had heard rumors of alien temptations, of beings who could charm with a simple glance. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. Jake opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, he was left staring into Lyra's eyes, his heart still pounding in his chest. Jake's heart raced as Lyra's words hung in the air. Want a taste? The question echoed in his mind, but his body seemed frozen. He could hardly believe what he had just heard. She was beautiful, more beautiful than anyone he had ever encountered yet. Her words stirred something deep within him that he couldn't explain. The fire crackled between them, casting dancing shadows on the walls of the cave. Lyra's eyes were fixed on him, as though she could see right through him. She wasn't waiting for an answer. In fact, her calm demeanor suggested that she already knew exactly how he felt. The energy around her felt different, powerful, mysterious, and oddly comforting. Jake swallowed hard, trying to gather his thoughts. I didn't mean to say that, he finally stammered. His voice sounded weak to his own ears. I didn't expect this. Lyra remained still, not reacting to his awkwardness. She wasn't offended or surprised. It was as if she had already anticipated this moment. She slowly leaned closer, her presence overwhelming. Jake could feel the heat radiating from her body, the energy almost tangible. Do you always talk before you think, Jake? She asked, her tone playful yet teasing. It's all right. I find it ... charming. Her words hit Jake like a wave, and for a moment he felt like a child, caught in a game he didn't understand. But the pull between them was undeniable. It was like gravity, something he couldn't escape, no matter how hard he tried. Lyra's beauty, her strength, her mysterious nature, they all drew him in. I didn't expect you to be ... Jake paused, unsure how to finish the sentence. So ... comfortable with me. Lyra smiled gently, but there was something ancient in her gaze. Comfortable? She repeated softly. Maybe you should stop trying to control what you feel, and simply ... experience it. Her words sent a shiver down Jake's spine. He had never met anyone like Lyra, and as much as he wanted to resist whatever strange power she held over him, he couldn't. There was a strange peace in the way she carried herself, an assurance that he was safe with her, even though his instincts told him to be cautious. He found his voice again. What do you mean, experience what? Lyra leaned back slightly, her eyes glinting with amusement. Experience the moment, Jake. Don't overthink. Just ... let go. Jake wasn't sure what to say. He was still processing everything, his crash landing, the strange beauty of the planet, and now this inexplicable connection to an alien woman who was far more than he could comprehend. Yet, in her presence, he felt something he hadn't felt. In years, a sense of belonging. He had spent so much time alone, drifting from one planet to another, never truly connecting with anyone. But with Lyra, it was different. She stood up suddenly, her movements graceful and fluid. Come with me, she said, holding out her hand. I want to show you something. Jake hesitated for a moment, but something in her voice made him stand. Without question. He didn't know why, but the idea of following her seemed like the only natural thing to do. Lyra led him through the dark cave and out into the night. The sky above was filled with stars, brighter than any Jake had ever seen. He could feel the cool night air on his skin, but it was the sight of Lyra beside him that kept his focus. Her presence was captivating. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything in the universe had led him to this moment. They walked for what felt like hours. Deeper into the wilderness of the planet, the path was unfamiliar to Jake, but Lyra seemed to know it like the back of her hand. They didn't speak much as they walked, but Jake didn't mind. The silence between them felt comfortable, as if they were both content in each other's company. Eventually, they reached a clearing, and Jake gasped at what he saw. The moon hung high in the sky, its light illuminating a massive ancient tree at the center of the clearing. Its branches stretched far above, almost reaching the stars themselves. The tree was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Its bark was smooth and silver, and its leaves shimmered with a faint, otherworldly glow. "This is where I come when I need to think," Lyra explained, her voice soft. "It's a place of power. My ancestors used to come here to connect with the energy of the land. I've spent many nights under this tree." Jake stepped closer to the tree, mesmerized by its beauty. It was like something out of a dream. He reached out to touch the bark, feeling its cool surface beneath his fingertips. The moment he did, a strange sensation filled his body, like a wave of energy rushing through him. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. It's like he had tapped into something vast and ancient. Lyra watched him, her eyes filled with a mixture of pride and something else, something unreadable. "You feel it, don't you?" she asked Jake. Nodded slowly, his heart racing. "What is this? What is happening?" "It's the energy of the planet," she replied. "It's alive, Jake. Everything here is connected, including you and me." Jake pulled his hand away from the tree, feeling a mix of awe and fear. "I don't understand," he said. "How can this be real?" Lyra smiled gently. "Because you're here, Jake, and you've been chosen to understand it." For the first time since his crash, Jake felt truly lost, caught between the strange beauty of the planet and the undeniable connection he felt with Lyra. She wasn't just an alien. She was something far greater, and Jake had no idea what he was getting into. But there was no turning back now. Whatever path Lyra was leading him down, he knew it was a journey he had to take. The pull between them was undeniable, and no matter how confusing or dangerous it might be, Jake couldn't help but want more. Jake could feel the pull of Lyra's words, her presence, and the strange, powerful energy of the planet around them. Even now, as they stood beneath the glowing tree, a sense of deep connection lingered in the air. It was as if the planet itself was aware of him, of his presence, of his bond with Lyra. He turned to her, still trying to make sense of everything that had happened in the past few hours. His mind was racing, his heart pounding. "What's going on here, Lyra?" he asked softly, not sure if he was speaking more to himself than to her. "I don't understand. I've never felt anything like this before. The tree, the energy, you feel so different." Lyra gave him a knowing smile, her eyes soft and filled with understanding. She stepped closer, and this time Jake didn't pull away. He couldn't. The connection between them was so intense, it was as if they were bound by something greater than either of them could comprehend. "The energy of this planet is older than time itself," she explained, her voice calm and soothing. "Connects to everything, to all life, plant, animal, and even to me. I am a part of it, just as you are now, Jake." Jake tried to absorb her words. "I don't get it," he admitted, shaking his head. "How am I part of this? I'm just a human. I shouldn't be here." Lyra's gaze softened, her hand gently reaching out to touch his arm. "You're more than just a human, Jake. You were chosen for a reason. Just like the energy of the planet chose me, it has chosen you as well. There is a deeper connection between us, one that has always existed, even if we didn't know it." The words were confusing, but the way Lyra spoke them, calm, serene, like a truth she had always known, made Jake wonder if there was more to the universe than he could possibly imagine. Everything on this planet seemed so alive, so connected, and here he was, caught up in something far bigger than his simple mission. "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Chosen for what? How am I supposed to help?" Lyra's eyes sparkled with something Jake couldn't read. "It's not about helping, Jake. It's about understanding. This planet is at the heart of a much bigger story. It has been for centuries, and you are part of that story now. You are part of what comes next." Jake took a deep breath. The weight of her words hung in the air between them, but he wasn't sure what they meant. He felt small in the face of all of this. He had always thought he was just a man in a vast galaxy, lost among the stars. But now, standing with Lyra, he felt like there was something more waiting for him, something he couldn't quite grasp. Why? Me, Jake finally asked. Why not someone else? Lyra smiled faintly. I can't answer that. The energy of this planet doesn't choose for reasons we can always understand. It simply does. And it brought you here, just as it has brought others before you. Jake was silent for a moment, his mind trying to process everything. He wanted to ask more questions, to demand answers, but the way Lyra spoke made him feel like everything would come in time. He had to trust her. Trust the connection they shared, even if he didn't fully understand it yet. The wind stirred the leaves of the ancient tree, sending a soft rustling sound through the clearing. The air was thick with the scent of flowers, and Jake could feel his pulse slow as the peacefulness of the moment washed over him. It was as though the very planet was calming him, urging him to relax, to let go of his confusion. But there was one thing he still couldn't shake. Lyra, he began, his voice almost a whisper. I don't know what this is between us, but I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to fall for something that I can't have. Lyra's eyes softened, and she stepped closer to him. This time, there was no hesitation in her movements. She was confident, and the air around her seemed to pulse with that confidence. You've already made a choice. Jake, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, and it's not a mistake. Whatever happens from here, know that it's part of what was always meant to be. He was caught between his desire for answers and his feelings for Lyra. There was a part of him that wanted to believe her, that wanted to trust that what they shared was real. But another part of him, the logical part, kept reminding him that he was a human, and Lyra was something else, something powerful, something that didn't belong. To him, before he could say anything more, Lyra's gaze flickered to the sky. We should go, she said, her voice taking on a more urgent tone. It's not safe to stay here for long. Jake was confused. What do you mean? What's out there? There are forces at work that you don't understand yet, Lyra said, her eyes narrowing slightly. You'll understand soon enough. But for now, we need to leave this place. It's not just us here, Jake. There are others who are watching, and they won't hesitate to act. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The peaceful feeling he had experienced just moments ago faded, replaced by a sense of foreboding. Didn't know what Lyra was talking about, but the change in her demeanor was enough to make him feel like he was in danger. Lyra turned and began to walk away, her steps sure and purposeful. Come with me, she called over her shoulder. I'll explain everything when we're safe. Jake didn't hesitate this time. He followed her into the darkness of the forest, his mind racing with questions and fear. He didn't know what forces Lyra was talking about, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't stay on this planet any longer. Not without understanding the truth. Jake followed Lyra through the dense forest, the sound of their footsteps the only thing breaking the silence. His mind was racing, trying to catch up with everything that had happened since he first laid eyes on her. The planet, the energy, the ancient tree, it was all so overwhelming. And now, she was telling him there were forces out there watching them, waiting for something. But for what? And why him? Lyra moved with purpose, her body almost blending with the shadows as she walked. She was confident, like she knew exactly where she was going and why. Jake tried to match her pace, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the calmness he had felt earlier was slipping away. Now there was an urgency in the air, and it unsettled him. Lyra, wait, Jake said, catching up with her. What did... You mean forces at work? Who's watching us? She stopped abruptly, her gaze sharp as she turned to face him. Her eyes seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, and for a moment, Jake wondered if she was reading his thoughts. But her expression softened as she took a step closer. It's not safe here, she said quietly. You've already been exposed to the energy of this planet. That makes you a target. Jake frowned, confusion filling his chest. A target? What are you talking about? I'm just a human. I don't know anything about this planet or its energy. Lyra shook her head, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. That's the problem, Jake. You don't know, but you will. The energy. On this planet is older than anything you've ever encountered. It connects all life. It has a will of its own. Some beings want to control it. They want to use it for power. Jake's heart skipped a beat.
Oh.
He wasn't sure what she meant, but the way she spoke made him believe every word. And you? What role do you play in all of this? Lyra looked away for a moment, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. I am part of it. I always have been. And my people, my ancestors protected this planet. But now there are others who seek to take that power for themselves. They'll stop at nothing. To get it, a chill ran through Jake. Who are these people? Are they here? Lyra nodded, her expression serious. They are the ones who have been watching, and now they know about you. You don't understand yet, but they want you because of what you've been exposed to. You've become part of the planet's energy, Jake, and they'll do anything to use that against you. Jake felt his chest tighten. Wasn't sure what he had gotten himself into, but he knew he had to trust Lyra. He didn't know why, but he believed her. So what do we do now? Lyra glanced back toward the forest. We need to get to a safe place, somewhere they won't find us. I've been preparing for this moment for a long time, but I didn't expect you to be involved. You're more than just a stranger on this planet now. You're connected to it. Connected how? Jake asked. I don't understand any of this. Why me? Lyra's eyes met his again, and this time, there was a softness in them that made Jake feel like she was letting him in on a secret. Because you were chosen, Jake. The energy of this planet doesn't connect randomly. It chooses. It chose you. There's a reason you're here, and you have a part to play in all of this. Jake's mind spun. He didn't feel chosen. Was just a man who had crashed on a strange planet, looking for a way to fix his ship. But as he looked at Lyra, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything in his life had led to this moment. He had a role to play. He just didn't know what it was yet. Tell me what to do, Jake said, his voice steady, despite the fear creeping into his chest. I'll do whatever it takes. Lyra's gaze softened, and for the first time, she reached out to touch his arm. The contact was light. It sent a jolt through Jake. It wasn't just physical. He could feel something else, something deep inside him that responded to her touch. There's no going back, Jake, she said quietly. Once you understand. The energy, once you accept what you've become a part of, there's no turning away. But I promise you this. I will protect you. You're not alone in this. Jake didn't know if he could fully grasp everything Lyra was saying. He wasn't even sure he could fully accept it. But he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't do this without her. He wasn't sure what dangers lay ahead, but he knew. He had to follow her. The distant sound of rustling broke through their quiet moment, and Lyra's expression hardened. They're here, she whispered. We need to move quickly. Jake's heart raced as Lyra pulled him into the deeper part of the forest. Shadows seemed to close in around them, and every step felt like they were being followed. But Lyra didn't falter. She moved with confidence, as though she had been through this before. They reached a small clearing, and Jake's breath caught as he saw the shape of a building in the distance. It was unlike anything he had ever seen in Ancient, but with technology that seemed far ahead of anything on Earth. It looked abandoned, but Jake had the feeling it wasn't just a shelter. It was a place of power. Lyra turned to him, her expression serious. This is the last place they'll look for us. We'll be safe here. For now, Jake nodded, his mind still spinning. Then what? Then Lyra said, her voice low and determined. We prepare for what comes next. The air inside the hidden building felt different. It was cooler than outside, and the silence was almost suffocating. Jake followed Lyra through a series of narrow corridors, each one darker than the last. The walls were lined with symbols he didn't recognize, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. The structure had the feel of something ancient, but there was also a strange energy that pulsed beneath the surface, like the building itself was alive. Lyra moved confidently, as though she had walked these halls 100 times before. On the other hand, felt like an outsider and intruder. But he didn't dare question her. Not now. Not after everything she had told him. She finally stopped in front of a large door at the end of the corridor. It was covered in intricate carvings, the designs twisting around each other in patterns that seemed to shift and change the more Jake stared at them. Lyra placed her hand on the door, and it opened with a low hum, revealing a spacious chamber. Beyond the room was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The walls were lined with strange crystals that glowed softly, casting an eerie light across the room. In the center stood a large stone pedestal, its surface covered in ancient runes. There was an overwhelming sense of power in the room, as though the very air was charged with energy. "Welcome to the heart of the planet," Lyra said quietly, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. Jake stepped forward, his eyes wide. As he took in the room, "What is this place?" Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. "This is where it all began. This is where my people's connection to the planet was born. The energy that flows through us, through everything on this planet, originates here. It's a place of immense power." Jake's heart pounded in his chest. "And what does it have to do with me?" Lyra didn't answer immediately. She walked to the pedestal, her movements graceful and deliberate. "You're connected to this energy now, Jake. The moment you touched the tree, you became part of it. Part of this planet's will. You're more than just a human anymore. You have the potential to change everything." Jake frowned, trying to make sense of her words. He didn't feel any different. He felt the same, confused, scared, and unsure of what was happening around him. "But how? I'm not special. I'm just a guy from Earth who crash-landed here." Iris? Gaze softened, and she walked back toward him, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "You may not realize it yet, but you've been chosen for something bigger than yourself. The planet chose you. You are the bridge between my people and the forces that seek to control this power." "Why me, though?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't even know what's going on. I don't know how I can help." Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time, Jake saw something vulnerable in her gaze. It was fleeting, but it was there, something human that made her seem less like an alien and more like someone who was just as lost as he was. "You've already done more than you realize, Jake," she said quietly. "Your presence here, your connection to the energy, it's all part of a larger plan. But the truth is, the ones who seek to control this power will stop at nothing to get it. And they're getting closer." Jake felt a chill run through him. "Who are they? Who's trying to control the planet's power?" Lyra's face hardened. "They're known as the Viral. They are a ruthless race, bent on conquering and exploiting the resources of every planet they encounter. They have been watching this planet for centuries, waiting for the right moment to strike. And now, with you here, that moment has arrived." Jake's stomach tightened. The weight of the situation was starting to sink in. He had crash-landed on a planet in the middle of a war, one that he hadn't even known existed, and now he was part of it. "What do we do now?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. Lyra took a deep breath. "We prepare. The Viral are coming, and we don't have much time. You need to learn how to harness the energy. Only then will you be able to stand against them." Jake nodded, still processing everything she had told him. He had no idea how he was supposed to learn to control this energy, but he knew he didn't have a choice. If he didn't, they would both be lost. Lyra led him to the pedestal, where a series of symbols glowed faintly. She placed her hand on the stone, and the symbols began to shift, forming a map of sorts. The lines and shapes on the pedestal pulsed with light, revealing a hidden path deep within the planet. "This is where you must go," Lyra said. "It's a sacred place, the source of all the energy. But only those who are truly connected to the planet can enter. It gets dangerous, Jake. But if you want to stop the Viral, this is the only way." Jake looked at the map, his heart racing. He didn't know what he was walking into, but he knew that if he didn't do this, there would be no future. Not for him, not for Lyra, and not for the planet. "I'll go," Jake said, his voice firm. Lyra nodded. "I'll be with you every step of the way, but be prepared. Viral will stop at nothing to keep you from reaching the source." With that, Lyra turned and began to lead him toward the exit, her steps purposeful. Jake followed, the weight of the journey ahead pressing heavily on his shoulders. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew that whatever it was, He couldn't do it alone. Lyra had already shown him that he was part of something much bigger than himself, and now, together, they would face whatever the Viral had in store. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he followed Lyra through the dense forest. The path was narrow and winding, and the dark shadows of the trees seemed to close in around them. It felt like the world itself was watching, waiting for what would come next. Lyra moved with grace and confidence, her every step purposeful. Jake, on the other hand, felt like an outsider in this strange world, the world he had no business being in. They had traveled for hours, moving deeper into the heart of the planet, toward the place Lyra had shown him on the pedestal. The map had been clear, yet ominous. A path hidden in the deepest part of the forest, a place that even Lyra had hesitated to speak about. "Where are we going?" Jake asked, his voice quiet but filled with curiosity. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far greater than either of them could fully understand. Lyra didn't answer immediately. She kept walking, her eyes scanning the trees around them. "The Viral are getting closer," she said finally, her voice low. "I can feel them, waiting for the right moment. But we have to keep moving forward. The energy we need to stop them is in the heart of this planet." Jake's mind raced. He had no idea how he was supposed to tap into the planet's energy, let alone stop a race as powerful as the Viral. He had always thought of himself as just a regular guy, a deep space explorer who had stumbled onto a strange planet, but now it seemed like the fate of everything depended on him. "How do I do it?" Jake asked. "How do I use the energy?" "You said I was connected to it, but I don't feel any different." Lyra slowed her pace, turning to face him. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of determination and something softer, almost comforting. "You're not alone in this, Jake," she said quietly. "The energy's not just about power, it's about understanding. It's about being one with the planet. And right now, the planet needs you. It needs you to trust it."
Yes.
Jake's confusion deepened. "Trust it? How do I do that?" Lyra's lips curled into a faint smile. "By listening, by feeling it. The energy of this world is alive, Jake. It's been waiting for someone to come and understand it. And now that you're here, it's waiting for you to accept it." Jake's mind was still spinning. He wasn't sure he could ever understand something as vast and powerful as the planet's energy. He had always been a man of science, relying on logic and reason. But Lyra made it sound so simple, as though all he had to do was accept what was happening around him. They continued walking, the forest growing denser the further they went. The air felt heavier, thick with the scent of earth and something unfamiliar, something ancient. It was as if they were walking through a place that had been untouched for centuries. And yet, Jake could feel the energy pulsing beneath the surface, a quiet hum that seemed to vibrate through the air. Finally, they reached a clearing. The center stood a massive stone structure, its surface covered in strange symbols and glowing lines. It looked ancient, but there was an undeniable energy radiating from it. Something alive and powerful. "This is it," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with awe. "The source, the heart of the planet." Jake's breath caught in his throat. The stone structure was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was beautiful in a way that was both uninspiring and terrifying. He could feel the power radiating from it, as though it was alive watching them. Lyra stepped forward, her hand resting on the stone. The symbols on the surface began to glow brighter, the lines shifting and changing. "This is where you will find what you need," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But be warned, Jake, the Viral are close. I'll stop at nothing to get what's here. You have to be ready." Jake stepped forward, unsure of what to expect. As he reached out to touch the stone, a wave of energy rushed through him. It was like nothing he had ever felt, intense, overwhelming, and yet strangely comforting. The power of the planet seemed to course through his veins, filling him with a sense of clarity he had never experienced before. His mind flooded with visions of the past, of the planet's ancient history, of Lyra's people protecting this place from those who sought to control it. He saw the Viral, ruthless and powerful, bent on taking what didn't belong to them. And he saw himself standing in the center of it all, a bridge between the planet's power and the forces that sought to destroy it. Jake pulled his hand away from the stone, gasping for air. The energy was still there, thrumming beneath his skin. He could feel it deep inside him, like a part of him had changed. Lyra watched him closely. Her eyes filled with a quiet understanding. "You've made the connection," she said softly. "The energy is part of you now. It's waiting for you to use it." Jake looked at her, his mind still reeling from the experience. "What now?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "How do I stop them? How do I use this?" Lyra stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "You have to focus, Jake. You have to believe in the power you now hold. The energy won't work if you doubt it. You have to trust yourself, trust the planet, and trust me. Together we can stop the Viral."
Your God.
Jake nodded, his chest tightening with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. For the first time, he didn't feel like a stranger on this planet. He felt like he belonged here, like he had a purpose. The energy of the planet was part of him now. He wasn't going to let the Viral destroy it. "We're not going to let them win," Jake said, his voice firm. Lyra smiled, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "No, we won't." And together, they stood in the clearing, ready to face the challenges ahead. The Viral were coming, but Jake was no longer the man who had crash-landed on this strange world. He was something more, and he would fight to protect it.